Good. Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Oscar West with the St. Mary Parish Sheriff's Office. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you haven't signed in, please do sign in. Like some of us, I know we're doctors, so if you don't mind, please print. That way I don't have to see anyone interpret it. Also, for those of you who's your first time in this building, the restrooms are actually here on the second floor. As soon as you go out, the men are there, the ladies behind the next door. We are blessed, and I'm thankful this morning for Gulf Coast who will be feeding us on this morning. I know that's not why most of you came here, but it's definitely a treat as well. So they're coming in now with the lunch. So if you would, I want you to know that it's going to smell good and we're going to get to it really soon. But we do not have any custodians. So any trash that's left in here, yours truly and probably our guests will have to clean it. So I'll ask you to please do pick up behind yourselves. I also had a question is this going to only be 30 minutes? Yes, it is, especially for most of my law enforcement friends, because we've sat in this room sometime for a whole day. So do please enjoy yourself. There will be some Q&A at the end. We'll now have a few words from our Sheriff, Gary Driscoll.
Morning. No, don't do that. This is Gary, remember that. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming and welcome you here. As Oscar said, 30 minutes, that's my talk, 30 minutes. So, no, just joking, it'll be real brief. Look, as you know, I love kids, I love doing things with kids and trying to take care of kids, and this has been brought up to my attention, another resource that we may be able to have and help our children that's in emotional distress. We all go to scenes all the time and we deal with these children, and sometimes we don't have the capability or we're trying to send them here or there. Well, these people, what I understand is she's going to give us a demonstration or tell us about what they do. They will come in with their mobile unit. They will come here and help these kids in emotional distress. And so if we have an opportunity to help our kids, we're going to do it. And that's why we invited everybody here to kind of see what she has to offer, because I think it'd be something great for our parish. And I appreciate Oscar helping spearhead all this. So without hesitation, we're going to bring up Ms. Brandy Lorette. She's going to give a presentation on exactly what they do. So hopefully, please pay attention. I think it'll be a great thing for us here in St. Mary Parish.
Thank y'all. Happy Mardi Gras. Probably not your favorite time of year, huh? As a law enforcement, no, not at all. All right. Well, my name, like you said, am I on? Yes. I am, now I can speak loud. My name is Brandy Lorette. I am the Region 3 Director for Gulf Coast Social Services. Region 3 covers all 7 lower parishes. So St. Mary, St. John, St. Charles, Lafourche, Terrebonne, Assumption, I'm missing one, St. James. So Gulf Coast has been around for 42 years serving your parish, and I am sorry that you haven't heard of us, because I know that's what you're all thinking right now. So yes, we have been around for 42 years. I oversee those 7 parishes and 21 programs that we offer. But today, specifically, I'm here to talk to you about youth crisis. I did have a Red Bull, so I'll try to slow down a little bit and speak fast. All right. Lesson learned. I presented for Terrebonne Parish SO and HPD just last week, and when I say crisis, sorry, I may need you, Wes. When I say crisis to the Sheriff's Office and say HPD, they immediately went here, right? Because you guys are trained in crisis intervention, you're trained in crisis mitigation, and what is it called? CIT? Do y'all do CIT? Yes? Y'all do CIT training? So crisis to us, crisis to a social service agency is self-defined, it's self-identified. So I want to start there because I've learned that I have no idea.
It must be on the automatic. It keeps moving.
So having a rental might help you. You gotta go faster.
I know.
Might be 15 minutes.
Crisis to a youth is self-identified. So we respond to crisis, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, but in school systems. Are we there? It's still moving. Sorry, guys. I apologize.
All right. Any help at any time would be great.
Go into your computer.
One of these computers do. I will feel I'll let them do that.
Yeah, it's just getting turned in.
So the point is, from a law enforcement perspective, crisis to you could be a youth calling that they're suicidal, right? Or they're having suicidal ideations or homicidal ideations. And yes, we do respond to those. We do. Without a vest, without all the good stuff. But more what we're looking for, more how we're looking to partner with you guys is responding to this crisis where they don't have a school and you get a phone call. Or they just went through a breakup at school and they're just distraught and they're crying and mom can't control them. Or they're throwing things because the game was taken away, the phone was taken away, and they're just uncontrollable. So those are the children that we want you to call us out for. We want you to be on the road looking for the criminals, as you should, and let us partner with you on the mental health side of things. So it has been very, very successful, and so far in Tamarind Parish and LaFouche Parish, we have partnered with St. Charles as well, and we have been very successful. And when I say successful, I mean daily. We're getting calls daily from patrol, from officers that are calling us out to help them work through these mental health crises that they're being called for. Are we
Which
better?
slide would you like?
Are we better? You can go to
It's still changing on its own.
the next one.
Yeah, let's try that. Moving very slow. Okay, that one,
All right,
or the one before.
it flipped, the one before.
Perfect.
All right.
How long is it gonna stay?
We are our mobile crisis response team. We're completely mobile. We go to the site. So if you're calling us from a parking lot, if you're calling us from a school, if it's an SRO, we actually will go there. We'll go to you. So let me rewind because I think this is very important to tell you. We are licensed by the state, by Louisiana Department of Health. So we're fully licensed by the Department of Health. And we do not charge families for this service. So no one will ever get a bill. We do, if the child has Medicaid, we will bill through Medicaid. However, if they have private insurance, no insurance, doesn't matter. This is no charge to anyone. So community-based immediate mental health intervention provided at the scene of the crisis. It's not intended to replace existing behavioral health services. And the purpose, of course, as you see up here, is to address urgent emotional, behavioral, psychiatric issues in real time. We want to decrease the use or the unnecessary use of hospitalization, of hospitals, ER visits. And I hate to say that in this room, but we also want to decrease the use of law enforcement. We want to keep them out of juvie. We want to keep them out of just unnecessarily being locked up whenever we believe, from what we do, from our standpoint, that a lot of that can be avoided if we just intervene correctly with our mental health team. So we are available 24/7, 7 days a week. My teams consist of mental health professionals, so we do have licensed counselors. We do have unlicensed professionals, which are degreed individuals who have degrees in social work or they're master prepared. And then we also have peer supports. Our peer supports, this program has been studied by LSU, and LSU feels that the peer supports are the most beneficial in this situation. So we do mobile peer supports or people that have been there, done that. So we actually have recovering addicts on our team. We have children, we have aged out foster care children on our team. They actually respond to these crises, and it is amazing the work that they can do with these kids. So that's the key components of our mobile crisis services. We have a rapid response time. Right now, we're averaging, which is a common question from law enforcement, we're averaging 28 minutes to arrival from the phone call. Pretty good. Probably not as fast as y'all. I turned it off again. So right now, our average response is 28 minutes. Quite proud of that. And we can change. We flipped it?
Yes.
All right. So how this works. It starts with a phone assessment. We have a licensed provider that's on call 24/7. She answers the phone, or he answers the phone. He does a risk assessment and a quick interview. And when I mean quick, I mean quick. It is, where are you? What is your name? Why are you calling? Briefly tell me why you're calling. Where are you? Are you safe? Is there a gun involved? Is there a knife involved? Do we need to respond with law enforcement? And then we do a quick risk assessment, meaning we ask those homicidal suicide questions, right? Do you have a plan? Are you going to do that right now? That does not mean we will not respond. We just need to know who we need to go to that site, or are we safe to go by ourselves? The actual crisis intervention, the team shows up and they intervene. They start the de-escalation process. They provide emotional support and they address the immediate need of that youth. And then we collaborate. So we collaborate with different behavioral health providers in the area. So we are the middleman, I guess that's the best way to put it. So once we stabilize, we do our de-escalation, we stabilize the situation, we're going to collaborate, we're going to connect that youth to the services that they need. And that is hopefully to keep them out of the hospital. So it is to provide them the counseling or the therapy, or not provide, but connect them with the right providers to get them the therapy or the counseling that they need. So the goal is to stabilize that youth in the most least restrictive environment. We want to avoid at all costs hospitalization. Ready? I think I spoke about this already, but the phone assessment, I explained the phone assessment to you, so anyone can call, anyone at all. A neighbor can call, a teacher can call, the youth themselves can call, anyone at all. And our response time, so by contract, our response time has to be less than an hour, but like I told you, we're at the 28-minute mark right now, which is great. Both of our crisis team members arrive at the same time, and then they're on the phone and they're consulting with the licensed professional. All right, and successes and benefits of this program, we want to reduce, like I said, hospitalizations, fewer emergency visits, inpatient psychiatric admissions. We want to reduce law enforcement involvement, improve community health, strengthening the capacity to handle mental health crises in the community, and then it's cost effective, right? It's cost effective for us as taxpayers, it's more cost effective for the families. So it's a lot more affordable. Of course, it's free in most cases, but it's a lot more affordable than hospitalization or long-term institutional care. And I said a minute ago that no one ever receives a bill. And then I need to piggyback into this. So all of what I just explained to you happens within 24 hours. You call us out, we respond, we do the de-escalation, we stabilize. Within 24 hours, we're connected them with the right provider. We go back to the house or to the school or to wherever we need to go. We do our follow-up visit with them, and then we're out. So that's how quick that happens. It's within 24 hours. Then there's a second half to it. So the second half is then the community brief crisis support. So the second half, we are actually given another 15 days, if needed, to follow that youth. I don't know if any of you have any mental health, if you have a history of mental health yourself, or if you're connected in some way to the mental health world, but to get a mental health appointment nowadays, it's like 2 weeks out, a week to 2 weeks out. So sometimes, what we do is we actually initiate this brief support program, and we follow them until they get to their appointment. And that means sometimes getting them to their appointment. Because we do, and so I'm not funny, but I'm gonna joke around right now. Our older generation, they don't really wrap their head around mental health very well. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, she's crazy. She's just crazy. She's just looking for attention. She's crazy. So sometimes we're up against that, right? So we have to not only educate the parent, but the parent will just outright refuse to take that child to have the services that they actually need. Child's not refusing, the parent is. So and sometimes we will have to convince, or we do convince the parents, let us just take care of this. So we'll do daily face-to-face visits with this youth until they actually get to their appointment and get the medication or the counseling, the therapy, whatever they need. We can also provide this service if the youth has been hospitalized. So if the youth, if they made it to the hospital before we could even get involved, we can actually provide it when they get out. So that crisis community, community brief crisis support can be provided after discharge. Hopefully your hospital's aware of that, but we're going to follow up with that because we have not received any calls from your hospital. So if you guys have any connections, please let me know. All right, so I wanted to share some statistics with you, and then we're going to kind of open the floor so that we can discuss how we're going to make this happen together. So as of December 17th, we are a baby program. We are brand new. This program is not brand new to like the rest of the world or to the rest of Louisiana. We're just in the South. We're brand new to this program. So we received our first call in 12/17. 18-year-old who was homeless, by the way. I had to respond to that one. And since 12/17, or as of last Friday, I did the numbers, we had 29 calls as of last 8 weeks, in the last 8 weeks or so-ish. We've had 29 calls. 26 of them were resolved, 3 of them were hospitalized. So not bad, that's pretty good. I think we're doing our job. The average age of the caller is 15 years old. We have served as young as 5 and then all the way up to 18. So our definition of youth is 0 to 22. So I know sometimes our brains will automatically go to 18, but it's actually 0 to 20. We do service. I shared our current response time already, and then these are some actual reasons for calls. These are calls that we've taken. Verbal threats of suicide, we've had outbursts. Refusal to attend school, those are pretty popular. I'm sure y'all know that. Inappropriate sexual behavior, we've had self-harming multiple times. Homelessness, suicide with a plan, homicidal threats without a plan. And we actually had some recently, she had homicidal threats with a plan. She was in school and she sent an email to her teachers, and she had a list. She had a hit list of who she was going to, take care of. The suicidal with a plan actually was the same school. She had a rope and she was in the gym. And they called us and we responded. So yeah, it can be as serious as that, but it can be as not serious, I guess, as just a youth not wanting to go to school. So we are actually partnered with DCFS as well. So part of one of my programs that I oversee is foster care. We do therapeutic foster care. So DCFS, a lot of times will call us if they're having issues with transition too. So you may come across that where it's a kinship situation or they're removing a child, you're at the scene, and they're removing a child out of a home. We can respond to that. That youth may not be presenting as a crisis, but it still is a crisis. It's still a crisis for that youth. So we would absolutely love to be called in that situation so that we can just kind of navigate what that youth may need when they move to the next home or not, or maybe a group home. All right, I promised you 30 minutes, and the food is smelling great, so I really, really want to open up the floor. Any questions? Yes?
So we call y'all instead of DCSF?
So you can, we will still call them, but yes, you can. Yes.
With us being SROs, do we have to get any type of permission from the parents, or do y'all before y'all can service them?
Either way works. So all we need is verbal consent. We do not need written consent. Yes, ma'am.
2 questions. How many mobile units do you have ready to go at this time?
Mhm.
And then I know y'all have your own plan within the schools.
Yes.
How does that work with
This is
them?
brand new information for me, so we would need a whole plan for this.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
sure.
There is, do you guys have a form where they have to see a doctor before they can return back to school? Do you have to do
It
that?
depends on the threat assessment and what information is gauged by our behavior interventionist.
Okay.
We rely a lot on our experts in that area.
Mhm.
They work with the SROs, and they make the determination from there. Sometimes it's a threat that's not an imminent threat of life. Sometimes we really have concern for the children. We've had parents refuse, and we've had to call ambulances to get them the help that they need. So there's a lot of consideration to give to something that's a brand new introduction to me, but it's for sure something we're going to come to the table and figure out.
Yes, thank you. And I would love to do if you want a one-on-one counsel, meeting, where we're more education-based, then absolutely, we can do that. 21. We have 21 individuals, part of our crisis team. So we do have a team on call, and then we have a backup team. And then, of course, I'm always it as well. So we have, I would say, to answer your question transparently, I would say 3, 6, 9 people a day on call. Total, yes. Anything else? I'm not getting the typical law enforcement questions.
When you say you guys respond to even kids that are refusing to go to school, because I'm sure everybody in this room knows that we get a lot of calls about that on a daily basis.
Yes.
From parents, my student or my kids refusing to go to school. Y'all respond to stuff like that?
We do, yes. Every day.
Well, I
We do.
I imagine. My
Yeah.
question is, do y'all respond to that? Because
We do.
that is a daily thing for our patrol guys.
Just our mindset on it is there's a reason. There's a reason. So we want to dig. We want to get, we want to dig a little bit deeper and find out why, and we have the time to do that.
Yeah.
You guys don't, and unfortunately.
Well, we do spend a lot of time at homes.
Yes.
Sometimes 30, 45 minutes to an hour at a home trying to convince this kid to go to school or whatnot, so.
We want to take that off your plate, and we want to, we kind of want to change the parents' mindset too of using law enforcement as a scare tactic, because that, we definitely want to try to avoid that. So that's one thing that we're pushing hard for, is that the parents, when we respond, then we educate the parent and say, okay, this is something we respond to. Let's just call our unit rather than calling law enforcement to respond to those matters.
Does law enforcement still respond to that call, or they just call you guys and you respond in place of them?
That's a great question. So every sheriff's different. So that would be up to them.
Okay.
So I could tell you.
That would be if they would call us directly, or if they call you directly.
If they call you directly first.
If they call us directly, then obviously we're dispatching the police officer.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have to, yeah.
Right, that's what I thought.
If they call us directly,
Right.
but if you guys, or if they're equipped with
That information.
your organization, then they can call you directly, is what you're
Right,
saying?
that's correct. They call us directly, they use that crisis line right there, and there's a live person on that line at all times, 24/7. Now, when we do our risk assessment, we may need you all. It just depends, on what we're hearing in that risk assessment, but we may call you out.
So call us out. Like I know Katie, when
These are
we
people.
get calls,
Uh-huh.
they stage in the area until law enforcement or
Yes.
will y'all do the same thing?
Yes. We're trying to, and please no, take no defense to this. We're trying to, if it's not medical, let's take them out of the equation. I know by trade, I've been a nurse for 22 years, so I totally understand where that medical mindset comes in. But yeah, if it's not medical, y'all get out there, you deem it, and you're like, this is not medical, this is not criminal. And that means it's us. And we finally have an answer now. Because you would leave and you're like, I don't know what to do. And they're calm now, I have to go. And you're leaving them in the same situation with the same issues, likely. So, yes, sir.
That was my question, is that we often get called for a psych evaluation. And oftentimes when we get there, we don't have the expertise to make that determination whether or not they're psychiatric or not.
Right.
All the time, we're just looking to see if they're a danger to self or others. Once we make that determination, does calling you guys satisfy the obligation that we have to get that patient to see a doctor?
Correct. So what we're finding, and just I'm a one-man show, so I'm kind of trying to get out of my Terrebonne Parish, Lafourche Parish area. But yes, what they found or what they decided upon is, I don't know if that's going to be something that you need to speak to whoever about, but they decided that yes, we are a provider. We're a licensed provider. So yes, you're handing them over just like you would hand them over to ER. It's the same thing. We're licensed. We're fully licensed. So you can put that referral Gulf Coast Social Services Mobile Crisis Team, absolutely.
So then that satisfies our operation.
Yes, correct. Yes.
In a situation where we have an imminent threat such as a homicidal suspect that has a list, how does that happen? Do we just turn that over to you, or do we take action as a law enforcement agency because it is an imminent threat? Do we work hand in hand with each other?
We do.
We still take action on the criminal side, and y'all come in and assist with that? How does that work?
Yes, I mean, I guess that would be situational, of course, but we would, in that case, in this case, law enforcement was there with us.
Okay.
And we call it shadowing, so they just stick with us. They're like, well, she's homicidal, she has no gun, she has no knife, so they're kind of like, well, it's not criminal, really, kind of. Like, it's just kind of, it's gray when you get to those situations. So they allow us to do what we needed to do. We kind of worked with them, and we decided that she did need to go to the hospital. So that was one of the hospitalizations that our licensed professionals said absolutely, that she needs, a higher level of care. So that's what we did. But yeah, we do work together a lot. So I don't know who's your sheriff, how they would feel about you leaving a scene in that situation. I'm not sure. Handing them over to us. I know just in my experience in these last 29 calls, I would say probably 20 were from law enforcement of the 29. It was from a patrol officer or a dispatch. It was from someone. Law enforcement related that said that they needed us to go out there. So right now we're shadowing because we're kind of getting used to the situation together, working together, and we're shadowing each other in the other parishes, and it seems to be working well. And so we really get a feel of how we're going to safely or warmly hand over. Anyone else? We will have Narcan on us. I know the medical mindset. We are packed with Narcan if we come up, if we mob on a substance abuse case. But we do have Narcan, but we're not going to. We're going to try not to like snow them under into the hospital. We want them to stay where they are, if it's safe, of course.
This is probably. Do you see this going into the adult realm? Because we don't deal with a whole lot of kids under 20, but obviously we adults.
He asked about our, so the adult mobile crisis was actually awarded to START Corporation. So START is in charge of mobile for adults. So anyone over 20, and we have a contract with them. So if we show up and there's an adult crisis, we call them out too. So 21 and over is START, and they have their own crisis line. Nothing else? Fire? How are y'all feeling? It should be a relief. You get these calls too.
We get the calls, we normally go out there before, along with the sheriff department, along with Acadian. I guess, one of my questions is just like, St. Mary Parish, you're saying we're new to it with the parish, so do we have persons who are already posted in St. Mary Parish who, even if we don't use them, can we find out who they are? That way we can sit down and basically discuss, how they would like to handle things. I know most of our scene times are, you get dispatched, you get there, do we wait for you to arrive on scene, or do we allow them to leave with Acadian and then you meet them at the hospital? So it's just, I guess.
Right. I hear what you're saying, and it's going to be case by case. So it's going to be, depending on the situation. And if you feel like this is not medical, this is not criminal, I have to go, you call us, you don't have to wait. If you would have left that scene already. I mean, like just in a normal situation without us, if you guys would have decided we have nothing, or they refuse, because that happens as well. Then we can come in, but you don't have to wait for us.
Because like most of our persons, if they state that they want to harm themselves, we don't have no choice.
Right.
You have to go. You know, so
We're trying to change that.
so that I guess that's where we stand at, because once they leave with Acadian, I think they get to the hospital, and once they get to the hospital, nobody can speak with them for, 72 hours, or there's so many hours that they have to be evaluated.
Yeah, we're trying, so where we come in, we're trying to avoid, if it's avoidable, we're trying to avoid the PECs and the OBCs, and, those, we're trying to avoid that. To come, allow us to come in and allow us to assess and decide or determine if they really truly need, and just like I showed you a minute ago, hospitalization. Out of 29, only 2 needed hospitalization.
I mean, when you're saying you're trying to change that, everybody in here, law enforcement, if someone's threatening to harm themselves, we're not waiting on you. They're going to be having to go to a hospital. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's what we do now.
Okay,
So
so
with
when
the
you say you're
plan-
trying to, when you say you're trying to change that, what do you mean by you saying you're trying to change that?
Because, so, I guess my question for you guys, why do they have to go straight, just if they say that they
I mean,
want
if
to
they're
kill
threatening
themselves?
harm to themselves or someone else,
Because we don't want to leave them in the home like that.
I mean, obviously that's, at that point they have to go.
When you look at the statute says that if we determine, or anybody determines if they're harming themselves or others, we have an obligation to give them to us.
So even without a plan and without a weapon, you still take them?
It's not,
That's what I say, that's everybody's
All it says is-
policy. I mean, that's everybody.
No, that's, understandable.
You know, so,
Yeah. We respond when they call our crisis line directly. I understand, you have to follow policy.
Yeah, if we're called
Yes.
and we're on scene, then we're gonna have to follow what we have to follow.
Yes, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
in place now.
Right.
You know, and
We
when
can
you say
pass it
you're
on to
changing
y'all
that,
afterwards, you get passed on to y'all after, but we have to handle it.
Right, so just, yeah, absolutely. I
you're trying to
understand that.
change legislation or statutes on that? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Okay, that's my
That would be
question.
great. That would be great.
You know?
No, we're trying to change, not change, I should say. We're trying to reduce hospitalization, or even in those. So I guess we initially, no. I mean, you have to do what you have to do. When you respond, you have to follow your policies. We get that. We totally understand that. But if you can give that parent our information, or if we could follow up when that child comes out of the hospital.
I mean, we know that a lot
Yes.
of them could be a lot of,
Yes.
attention, a lot of that. I mean, 90% of it, 99% of it is, but
So we
there's
reduce-
always that 1% that.
If we reduce future hospitalizations, we've done our job, right? So like if we can come in, after the fact, after they had their hospitalization, and we come in and we do that CBCS, what I told you about, those 15 days where we follow them, get them the therapy and the counseling and everything that they need, and then they're relying on us for that next episode.
Out of the cases that you've already done, can you give us basically a statistic or an example of when law enforcement was involved, such as what JP is saying, and how you intervened? Like I said, if law enforcement responded, and how did you resolve it without law enforcement having to take them, for medical care or Acadian?
Right, so out of the 29, and that's a rough number, but it's pretty close to that. 20 out of the 29 law enforcement, they called us.
Okay.
So they actually called us, and it was just it's a multitude of cases, it's just many different cases.
But you basically met while law enforcement was still on scene,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Yes, and they called us out to. The counselors are calling us for the suicidal and the homicidal threats. The counselor called us directly, and we called law enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's a partnership. We just kind of go back and forth, but
Case by case.
never Acadian. I'll tell you that we have not involved Acadian yet in those 29 cases.
So, I guess another question I have is, I know we have your contact information, but like, when we're on scene, a lot of our contact is through 911.
Correct.
So do we as the fire department call personally, or do we get our dispatcher to contact the office with all the information?
You could do it, and I know I keep referring back to our regional offices, and my office is in Terrebonne Parish, and we do it both ways. So dispatch will call, you call dispatch and say, could you please call the crisis line? We're in the middle of a crisis, or call yourself. You can call this line yourself. The line in front of you. Yes, ma'am.
So what does this look like in those areas in a school setting? Have you gotten many calls from the school? So explain what that looks like.
It's when the counselor is unsuccessful with their attempts to to de-escalate or to intervene. And that's mostly what we're responding to. So we had a 5-year-old autistic, nonverbal, who she could not get out of the classroom. He was under the table, and he was banging his head on the floor, screaming, and they could not de-escalate him and get him out of the classroom, so we responded to that. That's one great example that just happened last week.
So, if there's no more questions, one of the reasons she was actually invited is because working with many of our youth, what I am seeing is after the 72 hours. In other words, after the hospital visit, after the arrest, after, then what do we do next? So this is just another tool for us to have in our belt. Most law enforcement understand, even with every tool we have around us, we may not use it, may not ever have to use it, but it is something that I encourage us to begin to take a look at, because it's just another tool. Especially when I'm already getting calls from parents going, they've been to the hospital, I've called law enforcement, now what? So it's very easy to be able to find why it doesn't work, but I'm going to ask you, unless you have another solution, let's find out how we can work with it. Let's see.
Thank you. Thank you, yes.
We unfortunately have a lot of issues where it's the transportation from aftercare of getting student juveniles to and from appointments. And just so I'm clear, you, just for the 15 days that you're in to track after a hospitalization?
Yes, yes. But if transportation is an issue, that's one of the things that we connect them with, that resource, yes. And we will, and I'll follow up with you on that, because START, they do have transportation. So we will, we will, if that's a need, then that's our job, is to fill those needs.
And also, with outside departments, were any of their concerns that are important not addressed or asked questions about here? Like, would you be able to, like right off the bat, was anything that we would need to know as for, like, other concerns for outside departments that wasn't asked today?
Yes, absolutely. So I think everyone has my card. You have my card in front of you. I do operate by email mostly. My cell phone's not on there, but you have the direct line to my office, and you have my email address. So if you think of anything after this, or if there's anyone that you present this to and they're like, what about this? Right. Because that, there's, and I expect from law enforcement, I expect a lot of roadblocks. I do. I've visited other parishes, and it happens because it's just against the grain, right? It's not what we're used to. It's not what we've been doing. But just give us a shot. Before you leave that house and say there's no criminal, there's no medical, and you're leaving, give us a call and allow us to go in. And I think if you see it, it'll make more sense. If you see what we do in person, then it makes a lot more sense.
We are actually partnering with Gulf Coast. And what I want you to know is, do ask the question. It's like with our district school system. They can't just implement something, so we get that. There are procedures. There are things we have to do. But again, ladies and gentlemen, what is the rest of the answer then? Because, again, now that this is with this new position, with this government position, with this grant, I'm actually in the school system. We have to go through, we have to have certain systems set up in order for me to come in to make sure that I was healthy and that I'm sharing the right things with you, even as a law enforcement officer. And we're watching them, their behaviors are being shifted and changed. So therefore, it's just another tool. It's just another tool. I'm not even wearing my taser, but I'm still taser certified. It's a tool, however, if I need it. So if you have any other questions, you can contact me as well. I'm in the parish. I know most of you. Most of you I've reached out to and said, please come. So we will get through this, but let's build together rather than just find ways it won't happen. She's going to be here for more questions. However, I'm going to ask now that we please do eat so I can keep part of my promise that you can only be here. And we were finished for 30 minutes. That was y'all questions. Thank y'all so much for coming. We have representatives from the Acadian Ambulance, 911, different fire departments, police departments, school board. Did I miss anyone? Did I miss anyone? Sheriff? Oh, Sheriff asked if I would please bless the food. So if you don't mind.